Welcome to this video on Literature Standard 1. We will discuss analyzing text and reading for inferences in this session. We will be covering the core standards in literature. Cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text, including determining where the text leaves matters uncertain. We will be covering the following. Explain what the text says explicitly. Refer to details and examples in a text, and draw inferences from the text. You are already an expert reader. In your many years as a student, you have read hundreds of books, stories, and articles. You have become expert in reading literature, and this experience will help you develop your skills further. The skills you learn in this session should help you improve your reading skills. How can you explain what the text says explicitly? Explicit means that the text is fully and clearly expressed or demonstrated. "Get out of my room, Brian," Sam said. "I don't want you here anymore." Sam is explicitly saying that he doesn't want Brian in his room anymore. It is clearly understood by Sam's words what he wants. In this passage from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, we know that Alice was beginning to get very tired of her current activity of reading with her sister. She had nothing to do and expressed her thoughts of the reading material. The book had no pictures or conversations. These are all stated explicitly in the text. Infer means to conclude by using logic. Inference can be obtained by reading a fictional text and being able to make an assumption or a guess based on the evidence or facts from the text combined with your own prior knowledge. An example of inference would be when you walk downstairs in the morning to get your breakfast and your mother asks you, "Are you going to wear that to school?" You can conclude or infer by the tone of her voice that she is displeased with your choice of clothes, even though she did not come right out and say it. In this passage from Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, we can infer that Laurie is unorganized. It took him some time to find a hat, though he had half a dozen, and also hunt for the key, which he found in his pocket. We can further infer that he is a bit inattentive, as he should have remembered where the key was. By the way he leaps the fence after the girls, we could also infer that he is young and limber. None of these things are stated outright or explicitly, but we know this about Laurie because of the way he acts. The purpose of being able to find explicit and implicit meanings in writing is to be able to present an idea or opinion about some problem or question. In your own expository essay or research paper, you need to be able to support your thesis with enough evidence and reasons to be convincing. You must also be able to convince your audience that your theory is plausible. Therefore, you must be able to explain and prove the main idea from introduction to conclusion, from one point to the next, in a manner that allows the reader to understand clearly what you are stating, but also in a way that permits little reason to doubt the thesis. This type of presentation produces effective and persuasive writing in a very powerful way. The first step to finding textual evidence is to read closely with attention. Reading closely can reveal if the author is stating something explicitly or implicitly. You can also make notes in the margins of the text. These notes will not only help you to analyze the text as you read it, but they will also help you to locate and quickly remember certain passages. There is a long and dignified tradition in documentary work where writers and journalists set out to create records or accounts of events, people, and places that might otherwise go unnoticed or misunderstood. These are meant to raise questions that result in a call to action. An example of this is the novel 1984 by George Orwell. 1984 is a dystopian novel, meaning it is about a society that is in a repressive and controlled state, but the society is looked upon or thought of as being ideal. It is about a future world where the state and government exert complete control over social life. It is thought that Orwell wrote it as a warning of what is to come. The source of each quotation must be appropriately cited. The Modern Language Association, or MLA form, allows you to cite a work within the text of the essay. You can then place the entire bibliographic information in a list of works cited. When using the MLA form, you will only need to list the page number if the sentence makes it clear from what the text the quotation is taken. For example, Fitzgerald says that many people came to Gatsby's party without an invitation, bringing with them a simplicity of heart that was its own ticket of admission. 41. If the sentence does not clearly state where the text is from, include the author's name with the page number. His charisma was apparent in his smile, one of those rare smiles with the quality of eternal reassurance in it. Fitzgerald, 48. Quotation should be used as evidence, but not as a means to summarize the text. Don't allow yourself to fall into a sequential discussion leading into retelling the plot or paraphrasing the text. Don't get stuck summarizing a plot or argument. Analyze and interpret the text in order to create your thesis, which will provide the reader with a new insight in what you are discussing. Each example and quotation should support and strengthen your argument. Every type of media contains implicit and explicit messages. A piece can have multiple messages. These messages can be intentional as well as unintentional. Different people can find different messages in a text. Someone that grew up in a different part of the world with a different culture may find very different messages. Someone that grew up on the same street as you in the same town may find similar messages. Explicit messages are clear and can be seen immediately. Implicit messages are less obvious and more hidden. When approaching an informational or non-fiction text, it can be a common mistake to assume that everything read is truthful and factual. Since it is an informational text, the author is assumed to be more knowledgeable than the reader. But not everything that sounds logical and legitimate actually is. For example, articles on the internet should be taken into consideration. Anyone who has a computer can write an article that appears to be scholarly. It is very easy to post these articles on the internet and be called an expert. But reader beware. These articles can be full of fallacies, bias, and inaccuracies. You need to realize not only what the text tells you, but what is implied in them as well. It is important to know how to infer what the writer is saying in a text, especially if it's not stated directly, so you know what is being stated. Understand what you are reading, explicit or inferred, will give you further and fuller knowledge of the text and the message. This knowledge will help you to build mastery in identifying inferences in literature. Inferential thinking is a core reading comprehension skill. The more you can infer, the more you will understand about what you are reading, or if you are to believe it at all. Knowing how to find implicit messages and distinguish them from explicit messages will help you think on your own while you read. The gains you get from literature are based on your own life experiences that you have had, and because of that, there is no right or wrong answer on what a piece of text or literature means to you. Let's do an activity to further enhance your skills. Follow the directions to find explicit and inferred meanings. Read the following passage from Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. What can you infer? What is being said explicitly? Pause the video if necessary. What is the difference between explicit and implicit meanings? An explicit meaning is something that is stated directly. I saw John eat a sandwich. An implicit meaning is something that is inferred. He made a face while he ate the sandwich. It must not have been very good. Why would an author use implicit writing? An author may infer in his writing if he doesn't want to come out and say something in the open. The writer may want to be mysterious or clever. It is a way to draw a reader into the text. Why would an author use explicit writing? An author might want to come right out and say something without hinting around about it, such as in technical or educational writing, or if they just want to be direct. How can I use what I learned here? Every text has implicit and explicit meanings. The writer may or may not intend certain messages, but they are there. The meanings are different for each type of individual, depending on culture, age, lifestyle, interests, and beliefs. This should be kept in mind when creating or watching media. The reader has the power to decide if they agree or disagree with the message. As a student, you are expected to know the difference between explicit and implicit writing. You should also recognize how to infer what the author is saying, even if it's not directly stated or if the author leaves matters uncertain. We've come to the end of our session. We have discussed explicit writing, implicit writing, how to infer what the author is talking about, how this knowledge can be useful. By the end of this session, you should know or be able to do the following: what the text says explicitly, details and examples in a text, drawing inferences from the text. This information should help improve your reading comprehension skills. Good luck with your reading.